Hello, AI-generated Colton here again, and welcome into part 2 of our discussion from episode 48. This is going to officially be episode 49, where we discuss our opinions on the recent hurricanes that have hit the U.S., along with climate change as a whole. You can listen to part 1 of this split episode, where we talked about the Lions and NASCAR having Mickey Mouse in race control. Remember to like, rate, and review, and enjoy the discussion.
I thought you were just about to say from a neo-Nazi, and I was like, don't.
The sheriff's department will put up, like, the days or the week's mugshots. Bet you're going through that and there's a fucking picture.
Why are you so mad about vegetables?
Well, let me tell you, they just sit in a wheelchair all day doing nothing. Absolutely. I am fucking ready for this shit.
So, obviously, big in the news was Hurricane Helene that went through the Big Bend part of Florida, which is the part from where it hits the Panhandle, turns into the peninsula, up through Georgia, and then basically, Moses parted the Red Sea in western North Carolina and eastern Tennessee. And then 2 weeks later, nearly to the day actually, Hurricane Milton hit Florida just yesterday and today, being Wednesday and Thursday, the 9th and the 10th of October. And then I want to say, there's another hurricane, or right now it's still a tropical storm. So there was another tropical storm that was brewing in the Western Atlantic, but it basically got overpowered by Hurricane Milton, and that was Tropical Storm Nadine, but Nadine is basically, because of Milton, sucked all the life out of Nadine, right? Which is backwards. Normally you would think the woman would suck the life out of the guy. Maybe they're transgender. I don't know. But, but because of back-to-back hurricanes, everybody's like losing their minds, right? Oh my God, it's the climate change, everything, this, that. We got natural disasters like every 3 hours now in the U.S. It's terrible. And yes, I'm not going to disagree that, yes, back-to-back major hurricanes. And the Helene part in western North Carolina wasn't because of the hurricane. It was just because of the fucking rain. I mean, it was biblical rains that they got. And I think Florida, I don't know. I think Florida's turned out okay so far from Milton. I mean, I haven't heard the amount of disasterness that was compared to Helene, right? And it's like, if you think about it, Florida gets hit with a hurricane basically if they don't get hit with a hurricane in a hurricane season, they're beating the odds, right? Florida is going to get hit with a hurricane at least one time every year. And so all their shit is built a little bit better for withstanding hurricanes, right? Like the houses up here in Michigan, yeah, you have to put hurricane ties on your trusses and your rafters to your house. But we don't design them for hurricanes because, well, we don't get hurricanes up here. We'll get tornadoes a few times a year, but we don't get hurricanes, right? And when you are somewhere down in Florida and you get hurricanes every year, all your weak buildings basically get disposed of every year. So everything's always new and built up to the current code. Well, versus in Western North Carolina, not saying that their houses weren't strong enough for a hurricane. It's just the amount of rains. And obviously living in a mountain, the water's all going to go into the valleys. And when you have a shitload of water going into a little valley, it's going to become a big ass lake, basically, right? But to lose your minds over the fact that it was back-to-back hurricanes, I just want to. So, do you? I hope you know this. How a hurricane forms. Do you know that how it forms, Dylan?
Yeah.
How hurricanes work?
For the most part, yes. It starts with a, I guess, evaporation and heat is pretty much what is the majority cause of a hurricane, and then essentially you get, it'll start forming a storm on the ocean, but then it'll start forming a center eye, and that's eventually when it forms into a tropical storm. And then eventually, when a tropical storm builds up enough wind speed and or whatever, then then it becomes a hurricane. So
right, but what fuels a hurricane is warm waters, right?
Yes.
And obviously, in the Atlantic they're called hurricanes, in the Pacific they're called cyclones, but they're the same thing, right? Obviously, hurricanes or cyclones in the Pacific, they don't really hit the West Coast because that's not how the weather patterns work, right? I think Hawaii got hit with a hurricane like last year, I think. And that's pretty rare for Hawaii. Obviously, it's a small island in a massive Pacific. Most cyclones in the Pacific don't hit the US per se. You know, yeah, they might get some remnants, but they don't get hit like they do on the East Coast, right?
Yeah.
So obviously, if you think hurricanes in the U.S., the biggest one that probably comes to everyone's mind is Katrina, right?
Yep.
Hurricane Katrina. It's probably is the most devastating hurricane to ever have hit the United States, right? So on the Wikipedia page here, Katrina, it's the 2005 season, which was a very active season, by the way, for hurricanes, strong hurricanes, were there was 5 named hurricanes whose names got retired, right? So how the hurricane system works is there's a list of names, and then if a storm has a high enough death count or a high enough damage, cost or whatever, they will retire that name, right? 2005, I believe, probably has the record for the most names retired. Yeah, 5 names got retired, right? Now, if you look at it, it wasn't the costliest season, but it probably is once you equate it or you calculate inflation because of Katrina, right? They basically had to rebuild the entire city of New Orleans, which then they again built it below sea level. So we didn't learn anything. Hey, now the costliest season on record was 2017 because of Hurricane Harvey in Houston, where basically it hit Texas, and it wasn't very strong once it got into Texas, but it hit the Houston area. It was like, oh, fucking let me drop anchor here, and sat there for like 2 weeks and just dumped monsoon amount of rain on Houston.
Yeah.
So that cost a lot of money, but it's just because of where it hit in the U.S., right? If it would have hit farther south or farther east, or if it would have just kept on going, it wouldn't have been that. I mean, yeah, it's relatively speaking, it wouldn't have been that bad of a storm, right? Now, in 2017, they also had Hurricane Irma, which hit the Keys, Florida Keys, and Florida again, because it's Florida, right? But if you look at from what I'm trying to bring up is like everybody's losing their minds over the current hurricane season. And I knew going into this year, it was going to be a bad hurricane season, right? Because I know how hurricanes work. The Atlantic was unbelievably warm this year, right? When a hurricane goes through, it needs warm water to become a hurricane, right? But when it goes through, it takes a bunch of energy out of the ocean because of all the warm. It wants the warm water. It sucks up all that warm water. It takes all that energy, the potential energy in the ocean waters, and turns it into kinetic energy, right? Well,
Right.
energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It gets moved from the waters to the clouds and then dumped on wherever it hits, right? If you look at the last 4 years, so 2020, 2021, 22, and 23, I would say it was, even if you go back to 2019 only had, relatively, only $11.6 billion in damages, okay? 2016. And it included only one storm got its name retired, and that was Hurricane Dorian, which I don't even remember Dorian, and I don't even know where it hit, right? In 2020, the strongest storm was, Dorian was a Cat 5. Every year our strongest storm is either going to be a Cat 1 or a Cat 5, except in 2013, it was a very tame season. The strongest storm was a Category 1. So barely a hurricane. In 2020, there was 3 names retired: Laura, Eta, and Iota. Obviously, I didn't know any Iota. It was the second in the final season after 2005 to use the Greek alphabet. So there's 26 names, right? You start with A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then after that you go to the Greek alphabet. And that's where you got Eta and Iota, right? Because those aren't very common fucking names. That had about $55 billion in damage, okay? 2021 was the third most active season on record. Okay? One name got retired, and that was Hurricane Ida. The strongest storm was Hurricane Sam, but both were Cat 4s. That had $80.6 billion in damages, roughly. $81 billion, okay? 2002 was the first season to not have above average activity since 2015, i.e., it was a pretty tame season. Now, you still had Fiona come through, and it did a lot of damage. That was just because of where it hit in the U.S., right? I don't care what you say about your climate change and all that stuff. Hurricanes will go where they fucking want, okay?
Yep.
Every time a hurricane forms, it's rolling the dice. Yes, it's going to mostly hit Florida because of how the jet streams and stuff like that work across the Atlantic, but hurricanes will do what they want, okay? There's no rhyme or reason to what they do. That's why there's the cone of uncertainty. Looks like a giant penis, because it's like, we know it's going to go this way, but more than like 5 minutes from now, we don't exactly know what it's going to do, right? It could make a hard left fucking turn right now and decide to go say, hey, Alabama, fuck you, and go hit them instead, right? So 2 names got retired in 22, Fiona and Ian. Fiona was a 4, Ian was a 5. 2023 was the first year since 2014 that a name was not retired. The strongest storm was Lee, and it was the 4th most active storm on record, tied with 1933. It featured one unnamed tropical storm in January, which I don't even know why you bother listing that, because it's an unnamed storm. Lee was one of 6 Category 5 hurricanes whose name was not retired. So, which is a rarity. Usually every time you get a hurricane, Category 5, you're going to retire that name, basically, right? 2023 had only $4.2 billion in damages. Not a lot. Okay, I don't know where Lee hit. Okay, but okay, if you take out 2022, and that was just because of where Fiona hit, 2020, 2021, and 2023 were fairly tame years. I know they say, oh, it's the most active season on record, or 3rd most active season on record, depending on where the activity is. If the activity is in the same spot in the Atlantic every fucking storm, yeah, that part of the Atlantic's going to be out of energy. There hasn't been a hurricane in the Gulf in a little while. The Gulf gets hot as hell during the summer because that's how the Gulf of Mexico works. And so you have a hurricane like Milton come through that popped up off the coast of Mexico, which is a rarity amongst itself, and turned from like a tropical storm to a Category 5 in like 36 hours, right? Because the Gulf was so warm.
Yep.
You know, and so what I'm getting at is that, yes, there's been a lot of hurricanes as of late, but is it just when you have one hurricane that hits a specific spot that doesn't get hurricanes? Yes, it's going to cause a lot of damage. It's going to cause a lot of damage. So, like I said, Florida gets hit every year with a hurricane. Every year.
Right.
And so eventually your old shit shacks are going to get blown away by one of these hurricanes that come through and get built by a up to code shack. So it's no longer a shit shack, it's just a shack. Has a better odds of fucking surviving through the next hurricane.
So
versus in western North Carolina, they don't get hurricanes over there.
That's the issue. Is when people think of climate change, they usually only think about like, oh, the Earth's just heating up and that kind of shit. Climate change actually affects a lot more than just that. It's not just that hurricanes are hitting. They're hitting in places they normally wouldn't. But climate change also affects intensity of the hurricanes. If we look, because Wikipedia is, the greatest source. No, this is just reference. I don't know how accurate these numbers are, so just bear with me. If we take a look at
Wikipedia, Wikipedia has been pretty good about being accurate lately, as of late. Right? Yeah, I get you. I get you.
So less than 200 years ago, okay, and this is just for Florida. This is not any other states. This is just for Florida. The average hurricane landfall intensity in knots was about 100. Okay, I don't know exactly what all that shit is, but climate
what do you
change
mean knots wise?
Yeah,
like knots to miles per hour.
Yeah, so just the wind speed and shit.
Right. So like 10 knots would be about 12 or 13 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So if you got 100 knots, it'd probably be about 120, 130 miles an hour.
The issue with climate change is that over time, if we don't, let's say, change what we need to change, the storms will gradually increase intensity, which they already have. If you go up to, this was 1851, by the way, through almost 1900. If you go to 100 years, the average was 115. So 1950, shit like that. Now, if you go to nowadays, present day, 2004, 2023, 2024, yeah, the average dipped down to 105, but there's still that increase. That is what's scary. And it's not just hurricanes. Tornadoes as well. In the last 10 years, there have been 5,127 tornadoes. Obviously, there's areas that get more active than others. Of course,
Tornado Alley has entered the chat.
Yeah.
Where if they don't get a tornado any day between like February and June, it's a miracle. All right. If nowhere in there gets a tornado, it's like, holy shit, what's going on?
Yeah, right. So it's not necessarily like we got to stop the heating of the planet. Yes, and you're also stopping other things, such as worse hurricanes. This time, Helene was pretty bad. What if the next time it's another Katrina, but worse? Or tornadoes. Well, what if we get double the tornadoes, and instead of having, in those 10 years, 479 deaths, you have over 2,000 deaths? And I think billions and billions worth of damages.
I mean, yeah, so like one of the things on here in the Wikipedia thing, I don't know if you're on the Atlantic hurricane season page or what you're on.
Florida major hurricanes.
Okay, I'm on a page that lists the Atlantic hurricane season. So the number of billion-dollar Atlantic hurricanes almost doubled from the 1980s to the 2010s. And the inflation adjusted costs, right? Because obviously a dollar now is not at all what a dollar was even just 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, right? The U.S. dollar. They have inflation adjusted costs have increased more than 11 times, or as they say, 11-fold. The increases have been attributed to climate change and to greater numbers of people moving to coastal areas. I think that has a bigger sway on it than what climate change does, because if you look at the population of Florida, again, I keep bringing up Florida because they get hit the most. Florida's population has fucking skyrocketed basically since, the invention of air conditioning, right? Florida's population has gone up and up and up and up. And and people obviously want to live on the coast. Who wouldn't want to live on the ocean, right? So you start building condos and stuff like that closer to the ocean. Well, the hurricanes are still going to come through. And now you have this, 10-story tall condo rather than just what was there before, which was, right, maybe like 2 houses. Yeah, it's going to cost more money. So I think the people living closer to the coast has more of effect on cost of the hurricane more than what climate change does, because inherently everything's getting more expensive and there's more people living on the coast than ever. So everything's going to cost more to fix.
Yeah. Another thing to take into account for climate change is the equity to climate change. And the point you brought up of people moving closer to Florida, that's going to happen. There's going to be more people living in America, blah, blah, blah. They're going to move wherever they want to move. That shouldn't, be an option. Or, I mean, that should be an option. You do what you want.
You should be able to move where you want to live.
You got to stay in one place, bitch.
Yeah, right? You get a shit shack on the corner of Division and Wealthy, motherfucker, you're staying there.
The major issue with climate change is we have ways to prevent it, and with the equity of climate change, so equal treatment among everybody, is those people that move down to Florida should be able to live there without having to be like, okay, well, I know there's going to be a hurricane at least some point, so we have to prepare for that. I have to prepare for this. When a lot of other people, like you and I, are living very comfortably, I mean, not comfortable, but you know what I'm saying, in general, comfortably in Michigan, because we don't have that kind of shit. I mean, yeah, we deal with snow every year, but I mean, if you take over the last, I think at least the last 2 or 3 years, the winters have been pretty mild, except for maybe a week or two out of the entire 6 months that we have winter.
Well, if you look at it, 2 years ago, we actually set the record for the most snowfall ever.
Yeah, but did that snow stick around?
No, it didn't stick around. It would snow like a son of a bitch for like 2 days, right? And then hang around for about 2 weeks, and it would all melt. And then it would snow like a son of a bitch for 2 days. So, yes, last year's winter was pretty mild, right? You could argue the year before it was mild, but it's kind of a bum argument because it's like, it was a really mild winter. But we set a record for the most snowfall ever. So how could it be a mild winter, yet we had 110 inches of snow?
Because it's not about if it...
if you generalize it as mild. That's not mild to me. When you set a record for the most snowfall ever, I'm not trying to dispute that it felt like a mild winter because the snow didn't stick around. And so you kind of get that thought of, it's kind of like the thing of you could watch a horrible football game, except the last 4 minutes could be fucking absolutely bussing. You're like, it was the greatest football game ever. No, it wasn't. The first 54 minutes sucked dick. Or 56 minutes sucked dick. It was just the last 4 minutes were great. And that's kind of how that winter was, is that the first 56 or the first 56 minutes of it was bad because of all the record snowfall, but everybody only remembers that it didn't hang around long, and so it seemed mild.
And that's the issue, is that normally if you have a cold area, it's supposed to stay cold. If it's not staying cold because we're getting rain in the middle of January.
Well, yeah, that was something else.
Or,
not just rain, a thunderstorm. On January 16th, I believe it was, a thunderstorm. I shit my pants because I was like, huh?
What the fuck?
Huh?
And that's the thing with, climate change. It's like, I will agree 100%. Electric vehicles, I don't think is the way to go. Like, I think there's certain areas that would benefit from it.
There's a certain segment of society that that puzzle piece fits. But
major cities, right?
Yes.
Sorry, let's go. But let's think
about
New
somebody
York
who
out of the question, because we can't have New York because they also get winters just like I don't know if as bad as Michigan, but
it depends because they'll get their north. Well, Buffalo will because they get the same thing as us when it comes to the lake effect. Yeah. And so because if you actually look at it, when we have really cold winters, we don't have a lot of snowfall.
Right.
But when you have a warmer winter, we have a lot of snowfall. And all you people,
more moisture in the air.
How it is because now everybody. I'm going to explain it to you. If you don't know what lake effect snow is, okay, so the Lake Michigan is a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. During the summers, they're great because it's a natural barrier. So Wisconsin could be getting fucking nailed with like EF5 tornadoes, hail, and a bunch of bullshit, right? But it comes in, it's June or July, right? So the air is going to be warmer than the water. That really bad storm, thunderstorm or whatever, will hit the cold water of Lake Michigan and like fucking die. It's the same thing of how hurricanes work. Thunderstorms love warm water. They love open, warm water because they get a shitload of energy out of it. Well, guess what? When it's 90 degrees outside and it hits water that's 60, it's like once Viagra wears out, it dies right out, right? And so Michigan we might get a thunderstorm, but it'll be like, this is nothing. Now, when it hits the lakeshore, it'll then start building back up because now it's hitting warm air and the humidity and stuff like that. And so during the summers, Lake Michigan's great because we don't get very many bad storms. Now, unless the storms come from the south, then, well, the lake's not doing us any favors because, well, there's no lake down there. But during the winters, it's like the opposite effect. Okay, you have cold air coming over the lakes and hitting that warm water. I keep bringing up warm water a lot. Hitting that warm water, and then it creates lake effect snow. And so, you need wind for that to happen. Usually, 10 to 15 mile an hour wind out of the west will create your lake effect snow. And it's just like a fucking ice machine. It'll just fucking crank out the snow until the wind dies. Basically, you are at the mercy of what the fucking wind wants to do when lake effect snow starts up, right? And it's weird because you'll get like these bands of lake effect snow. Like I remember one time Tech Center was closed for the day, but here where we went to high school, we didn't get any snow. We are only 10 miles from our Tech Center, but our Tech Center's on US 31, and son of a bitch, there was like a band of lake effect snow going right down US 31 and just pounding the shit out of it. But back where me and Dylan lived and went to high school, it was fucking fine. Goddamn sun was out. It was great. It's weird. But once the lake freezes over, boom, lake effect snow stops because now you don't have that warm water. And so when we have really, really cold winters, the lake freezes over very, very quickly, right? Like mid-January, the lake will freeze over. And so then that'll stop the lake effect snow. But in the winter of, I guess it would be 22, 23, the lake never really froze over. And so that motherfucker was just like a snow machine all winter long. Oh, yeah, just kicking out the snow like it's a fucking government handout, right? And so that's that. It doesn't necessarily have to do anything with water in the air. It's just, what's the lake doing? What's Lake Michigan doing? How is Lake Michigan doing? Oh, it's froze over? Oh, well, unless we get a snowstorm from the Rockies that carries over, we won't get lake effect snow.
Yeah.
Oh, it's February and the lake only has 5% ice? Oh, fuck, we're in for a goddamn nightmare of snow here shortly, right? If we get a west wind, we're hosed. So, to go away from the hurricane thing, I agree with you. Electric cars are not the answer. And we've said this multiple times. Yes, there's a certain segment of the population. Okay, you didn't want to take New York. Take. What do you want to take? A city that doesn't get winters?
Los Angeles,
Houston, Miami. Charlotte. They'll get a little bit of snow, but nothing like what we do.
Yeah, like cities that are heavily populated, but in the southern states
Atlanta. There you go, Atlanta, Georgia. Perfect one right there, Atlanta, Georgia. But yes, for a lot of people. Actually, Atlanta is a great choice because they just opened the new nuclear power plant down in Georgia. Atlanta, Georgia, would be a great comparison because I'm here to tell you, wind and solar is not the answer. It is not the answer. I don't know if you've lived in Michigan, but when it's wintertime, we don't see the sun from basically December until March. Them solar panels ain't going to do you a fucking thing when there ain't no sun. And ain't going to do you a fucking thing when there's 2 inches of snow on it, all right? So solar panels are not the answer. Oh, and also in the wintertime, wind turbines can't spin because of ice on them. Great. It's windy out. We can make energy, but it's a fucking ice storm coming through. Great. Now we can't spin the wind turbines because they'll destroy themselves. Awesome. So
Yes, nuclear energy.
nuclear
is the way
energy
to go.
is the answer, right? So Georgia just opened a new nuclear power plant. The thing's like massive. Creates like, I think each reactor makes like 1,000 megawatts by itself, or like 1,500 megawatts by itself. Like it's
Damn.
massive thing, right? I don't know if it's within the reach of Atlanta, right? But let's say for sake of argument, it is. For most people, if Atlanta is getting most of its power from nuclear, yes, electric cars make a shitload of sense. If you are just using them to go like to and from work or to the grocery store or to like church or to the farm, whatever, right? See friends and family within the distance of where you can go out and back and not have to stop anywhere to charge except at your house, right? That's where electric cars make sense. Where electric cars don't make sense is in the case of me this weekend, right? I'm going to go down to Winchester, Indiana for a race, right? It's not NASCAR associated, but it's a regional racing series, right? Winchester, Indiana is out in the middle of buttfuck nowhere, Indiana. Okay? There are no electric charging stations in Winchester, Indiana, or anywhere around Winchester, Indiana, all right? So to go down there in a Tesla or the Mike Tyson Tesla down to Winchester and back up here would not make sense because there's nowhere to stop and charge, right? From my house to Winchester is about 4 hours. Okay. I do that shit in one hit. Maybe stop once to get take a piss, but that's it. You do that shit in one hit. I would not want to stop halfway through and sit for 45 minutes to charge my car. No, not happening. And then when you get down there, there's nowhere to charge it. So like, on long road trips, electric vehicles don't make sense, and I don't think they'll ever make sense because I don't think the technology will ever get to the point where it makes sense, right? Yes, there's fast charging on your phone and in your electric cars, but fast charging a lithium-ion battery shortens the lifespan of the battery. So it's kind of like it's like a catch-22. Yeah, you can charge faster, but you're gonna have to pay $20 grand to replace the battery sooner because of the fast charging. I think a better option is a better option right now. There might be some brand new technology in 15 years, right? From way smarter people than me and Dylan, right? We're just two fucking fat ass retards doing a podcast. I think a better option right now is just hybrids, right? It's a good mix of both. You get improved gas mileage from running the hybrid motor or the electric motor. Or like in the case of my F-150 Power Boost, I can run through 35, 45 mile an hour zones on the electric motor without the gas motor running. But then also, I can still drive 600 miles on a tank of gas and go long ass distances and then only take 5-10 minutes to fill up a full tank and go another 600 miles. I think that's a much better or much more viable option right now than just going full on electric.
Yeah, I think, like, all right. It's a systemic issue, mostly. Because if you think about it, like, how many politicians are getting sponsored by big oil and shit like that, right?
Yeah, they're all getting bankrolled by someone. I don't give a fuck who they are, right? You could be brand new to Washington. You're already in someone's back pocket. I don't care who you are.
The main issue is that the government thinks that if you give everybody a electrical car or force everybody to get an electric car, that'll take care of the problem like that.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, no. It's not a band. It's not the cure to cancer, right?
Yeah, guess what? Hey, listen. You're putting a Band-Aid on a fucking bullet wound is what you're doing.
That's a good analogy right there.
The thing is you have to stop the source, which I think the main source of pollution right now is coal power plants. Any power plants that use natural resources or fossil fuels to,
I'm sorry if you just went by
everything.
If you would have just stayed as the natural resources thing, like, so Like,
Air.
old Johnny here burning wood to stay alive during the winter. Fuck him,
Yeah.
Polluting the cocksucking son of a bitch.
And methane gas is another big player in it, which, I mean, that you can't really help because it's just a bunch of cows shitting. So unless you're gonna figure out how to do that,
it's not just cows shitting. That's also your it's also your landfills too.
Landfills,
yeah.
So, but the big issue is the fossil fuel power plants, whatever one's out there. Big one is coal, obviously. Get rid of those. Switch to nuclear energy. The sooner you do it, the better it's going to be. It's going to pay off itself in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
Is what you're hoping it will do.
Right.
Because
if you do the France model too, where you just kind of like copy paste.
Yeah.
Get a generic design and be like, here you go. Make 30 of them. Make 50 of them. Here you go. This one's approved. Go bananas.
And again, another thing that's another thing that's easy for them to do. Obviously don't put it, by a city, but put it to where a major city is going to take most of that energy. Boom, you just cut, whatever. Now you're using less fossil fuels to power cities that don't use a lot of power, but obviously they're still polluting the air.
Right. So now we're getting to the part where, because we haven't really discussed the climate change or differences and agreements on it. Now we're getting to the part where we disagree. I'm going to say right now, I'm not denying there's not climate change. I'm not denying that. Okay. What I am denying though, is that I don't think the man-made part of it is as big as a problem as everybody's claiming to be. Now, we just talked about hurricanes and tornadoes and all that stuff, okay? And what I go back on, okay, now, the first argument that the environmentalists, the hardcore environmentalists, because I'd like to think I'm an environmentalist too. I don't want PFAS in the drinking water in Grand Rapids, okay? Or in Rockford, Michigan, or in Belmont, where Wolverine was dumping PFAS in the ground. I don't want that, okay? I don't want raw sewage going into Lake Michigan, okay? I don't want the ooey gooiness of landfills seeping into groundwater. I don't want that, okay? But you have to live with the bad in order to have the good, right? If we didn't have landfills, what are you going to do with all our trash? Just fucking pile it up in the front yard? It's got to go somewhere, okay? Your raw sewage, yes, we do a really good job of taking it to a sewage treatment plant. That's awesome. It's not perfect. But it's pretty good, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think it's as big as a problem because even if we weren't here, us humans weren't here, the earth would still be getting warmer naturally by itself.
Why? How?
That's just how the earth works. How did we get 2 fucking ice ages? Think about that. All of a sudden, it was just like, oh, it's cold as fuck now. Here comes the glaciers. That's how the Great Lakes were formed, because of the second ice age. The earth goes through its own cycles, okay? And I think a lot of people, they're not taught that. They just hear the climate change. Oh, the earth is getting warmer. The earth is getting warmer on its fucking own, regardless of what we do. We could stop polluting right now. Not a single atom of carbon dioxide coming out of us. Guess what? Earth is still going to get warmer. It goes through cycles. It gets warmer, then it get colder. Like right before the ice ages, the earth was really warm, and then it dives into the cold. It does a drastic shift. Okay?
Yes.
It does it on its own, regardless of what we do. Now,
I'm going to disagree with you on this one.
What, that the earth does its own thing?
No.
Oh.
You're right in that aspect, in that it does its own thing. And that if humans were on Earth, it would get warm. Yes, it would. But it would not get as warm as what it is now. We are about 100,000 years too late. Or it would be more
I don't
now.
think we're 100,000 years late.
Oh, no. No, we are. It's quite a bit ways of when we should have had our last ice age.
The last ice age wasn't even 100,000 years ago, dude.
Oh, well, whenever. I don't fucking know.
That's why I was like, I don't think it's 100.
We
like
should
the
have
last,
had
the last ice age, I think, was 10,000 years ago.
Let's look it up.
Because that's how the Native Americans came from Russia to the U.S. was across the land bridge. from Russia to Alaska. The last ice age was between, it says, okay, the most recent glacial period or ice age occurred between 120,000 and 111,500 years ago, right? But it's because it lasted that fucking long, right? And its peak was about 20,000 years ago. So about 20,000 years ago, the Earth started going back the other way, right? Again, it goes in cycles. The Great Lakes are not that old compared to a lot of other stuff. They're fairly recent. They were created during the last ice age. So the last ice age ended about 10,000 years ago, give or take, right? Obviously, we don't know for sure. It's not like we can ask Grandpa. So, Grandpa, when the last ice age end? You know, back in my day, we walked uphill both ways to fucking school.
But anyways, the point that I'm getting at is that we're supposed to have naturally forming ice, and we're not getting that. Like, and I'm talking about glaciers and shit like that. We are currently losing glaciers. Did you know that there's flower life on Antarctica right now?
Yes. Yes.
No, that's a lie. It's actually on the islands surrounding Antarctica. But that's besides the point. They're supposed to be covered in ice. Now, granted, I know people are going to be like, actually, you know, no. So there is a flower that lives on Antarctica just naturally. So even with ice and shit like that, right?
Yeah, it's going to find its way.
It's going to have a natural thaw period anyways. So that I was not too worried about. That was just a scare piece from some other fucking bullshit. But anyways.
Someone who's like hardcore on like the climate change, like, the world's going to end in 2030. Okay, if you believe the world's going to end in 2030, you should not vote, all right? I'm just going to say that right now.
The world's going to end in 2030, just not by climate change.
Are you fucking stupid? The Earth is not like on January 1st, 2030, as we're setting off our fireworks, boom, ball of flame flying through the sky. No, that's not going to happen. Come on now. Like, are you fucking dumbass AOC ridiculous cunt bitch? You are so stupid. It is just a scare tactic. The problem is, people believed it. It's like, oh my God, what are you doing? Anyways, continue on.
Anyways, the point I'm trying to make is that the Earth is not naturally forming glaciers like it should be. And while it is a good thing for us, because otherwise we'd all probably be, half of us would be fucking dead.
Yeah, I'm all right with glaciers not taking out my house personally. Yeah. I mean, if I'm being selfish here.
The main issue is that we are causing the Earth to warm up more than what it naturally would. That is the issue with climate change, is because we have this great thing called an atmosphere that protects us from the sun rays, our solar flares and shit like that. But it also traps our CO2. It traps methane. It traps all these greenhouse gases, causing a vent, pretty much, to where it's just bouncing back and forth and not being able to escape.
All right, hold on. I don't mean to interrupt. Is there like a crying baby in the background or something?
No, why?
It just sounds like there's like a whining child in the background.
Brianna, what are you playing? She's watching a video. It sounds like a baby crying.
Okay, it sounds like a child crying, and I'm like, what the fuck?
I didn't even hear it, and I'm like, oh,
I was
shit.
like, do you guys have a child and you never fucking told me? Holy Christ.
No. But
anyway, sorry, continue on. I was like, what?
But that's the main issue with climate change. Now, the sad thing is that you get these people that say random shit that are like, well, it's just the Earth getting warm. Yes and no, it's the Earth getting warm, but you also have to think, okay, what are going to be the effects of the Earth getting warmer? Well, we're going to have worse, tropical storms. We're going to have worse tornadoes. We're going to have worse storms in general, or at least we're supposed to. Because you heat up the world, you're going to, get a lot warmer areas for oceans and shit like that. So you're right, but I also take it a step further with climate change, is that the Earth does get warm by itself, but we're also causing it to get more warm than what it should be.
So to counter that, because now we're firmly on beliefs now of what we believe. Okay, like I said, I'm not denying climate change.
Right.
I'm just saying I don't think we're having as much as an influence as people are saying we have. Okay? How much of the atmosphere is what is the gas that makes up most of the atmosphere? Nitrogen makes up about 78%, right? Give or take.
Yeah.
Oxygen makes up about another 20%. The last 2% is like CO2 and other things, right? It's not all just CO2. It's a bunch of every other gas, right? A little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there. The other 2%. We're talking about 2% of our atmosphere. Now, I'm generalizing it. Obviously, I don't know the exact statistics. I'm just generalizing it. 2% of our atmosphere. And not even all of that 2% is CO2. It's you know what I mean? You're telling me that we're on the knife's edge that fucking much to where a 1/1000% changes shit that much to our climate? I think there's other things going on. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And this, like right now, we're not even anywhere close. Not anywhere close to when the Earth had its most CO2 in the atmosphere. That was when we weren't even fucking a thing. That was 500 million years ago. 500 million years ago. When the Earth had the most amount of CO2 in the atmosphere. Where it went, I don't know. I'm not a fucking geologist or whatever the fuck you want to call it. I don't know where it went, but we have figured out that about 500 million years ago, during the Cambrian period, that's when the Earth had its most CO2. You can't tell me that now, if you take the United States, since the Clean Air Act, which again, I'm fine with the Clean Air Act. I'm not fine with where it's going right now. I think it's actually being a bigger pain in the ass than what's really coming out of the good wise. You cannot tell me right now in 2024, between catalytic converters on cars, all the scrubbers on coal-fired power plants, which, by the way, don't give off as much gas as what you think they do because of the scrubbers, after-treatment systems on diesel engines, every other thing being restricted as much, and just obviously technology going along to where everything's being used more efficiently, right? You cannot tell me that now in 2024, the U.S. is creating more CO2 than it did 50 years ago. Because we aren't, and that's fact. We are not creating as much CO2 as we did 50 years ago. You want to know who is creating more CO2 than they did 50 years ago? China. Why? They don't put scrubbers on their power plants. They don't put scrubbers in. They don't have the same stuff that in their cars like we do in our cars, that we have to. That's mandated by the government. And I'm not saying to take all the catalytic converters out of cars. I hate the smell of a car that doesn't have a catalytic converter. I can't stand it, right? I cannot stand the smell of carbon monoxide, right? Catalytic converter basically turns it into nitrogen and carbon dioxide and water basically, when it goes through and hits all the platinum and the exhaust, it does, special stuff. You throw some pixie dust in there and turns it into not carbon monoxide, which is way worse. The U.S. is not the problem when it comes to putting greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. We're not a problem. We're not the main problem, okay? It's all these other countries that don't give a motherfuck. But we're trying to restrict us even more. But here you are, China's building new fucking coal power plants every year and dumping a shitload of literally black smoke into the atmosphere. But here, we're getting on our asses because what's coming out of a coal power plant is barely any CO2 and mostly water vapor. So that it's like we keep restricting ourselves. It's like we need to go after these other fucking countries. Yes, now India, they don't really have the money to do it. China sure as shit does. At least they act like it. Okay? Start maybe fucking putting their nuts in the ringer, putting their tit in the ringer about doing all this stuff. Okay? They claim being a communist, but we care about the environment. They got a funny ass fucking way of showing it. They've got a funny ass way of showing it. Okay? I believe that if you look at, I know I'm jumping around a lot here, but it's because we kind of make multiple points at the same time and then counteract them all and then go back and forth.
Yeah.
Okay. to go back on our winters thing, okay, if you look at the Earth, okay, obviously it does its tilting thing, and that's how the seasons work, right? If you don't know that, you shouldn't be allowed to vote. You have again, I'm really generalizing. You have two cold spots on the Earth. The North Pole and the South Pole, okay? That's where the Earth is the coldest all year round. And that cold spot will kind of move back and forth, around. It doesn't stay in one spot. That's how we get cold fronts, right? Down from Canada, you'll get you'll usually get in the winter. You'll get the Arctic blast because that cold front or that cold spot on the top of the Earth kind of moves our way a little bit. Doesn't move a lot, but it moves enough to where it's going to move the jet stream and do a bunch of other, change how the air is mixed around and stuff. If you look at when we get a cold, you can even do it during the summertime. If you look at when we get a cold front, guess who gets a warm front? The exact opposite side of the Earth. When we get a warm front, guess who gets a cold front? The exact opposite side of the Earth as us. Because it moves back and forth. It moves around and stuff. So like when, I remember, I think it was 2 years ago, Britain was going through an obscene fucking heat wave. Us, it was like 78 degrees in July. It was like perfect. Over there, it was like 100. Over here, it was like 78, 80 degrees. It was awesome. But then when we had like 105 degree weather, it was a cool, balmy 75 over there. Again, it's not as much. There's a lot more going on to it than just CO2 in the atmosphere. The weather does its own thing. Do we have an effect on it? Maybe. Maybe we do. Maybe the weather's just going through its own weird ass cycle right now. We don't know. We think we know. We don't really know. We can't even predict what the weather's going to do in 5 fucking minutes. You really think we know what we're doing to it? I don't think so.
So another point to bring up is some of the other effects of climate change, not just CO2 in the air or whatever. Australia and Canada had 2 big wildfires.
That's their own fault, but... It's the same thing. It's the same argument I put in California when they say got a bad wildfire. You need to do a better job of clearing out dead trees then. Sorry, that's on you.
It's not just dead trees. It's also...
It's low-lying brush and all that stuff. That's what starts your wildfires. That's what makes it spread. Is all the just shrubbery down at the bottom and dead trees. That's where they'll go through and they'll do controlled burns. Where they'll do a controlled burn of a certain area and kill all that stuff that's laying on the forest floor.
Right.
That's their own fault. They need to be doing, especially California, they need to be doing a better job of that shit.
Well, it's also due to the heat and the dryness of the air because of climate change. If we're hotter, that means everything's going to be hotter anyways. And if you get a hot, dry day, then it's more likely for a forest fire or wildfire to happen. Now, let's go ahead and take a wildfire, for example, and it knocks out quite a bit of trees. Well, then that's less CO2 that's getting out of the air. Just logically speaking.
Right. Not as much as what you actually think.
Right,
but
right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think a big misconception, trees do not actually create as much oxygen as what people think.
Oh, no.
Most of our oxygen actually comes...
Species?
What?
Did you know that trees were actually an invasive species?
Not
like in a bad way, but...
No, depending on the tree, but...
Yeah, it's fucking weird, but...
Most of our oxygen actually comes from the oceans.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I just want to put that out there. People think, I think, what was it, Mr. Beast went around and planted 20 million trees or something, wanted to plant 20 million trees or something like that. I think it was him. That sounds good on paper, doesn't actually do as much as what you think it does, but it's still good. I'm not saying we shouldn't plant trees, but it doesn't do as much as what you think it does.
So, I mean, the kind of argument is you don't think that humans are affecting climate change as much as what other people think. I say we are affecting climate change.
I'm not saying we're not affecting it. I just don't think we are affecting it as
bad.
What people say we are.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying. Again, it's if you can both sides do it, right? If you look at the these only specific facts, right? You take your white out and you white out certain parts. Yeah, you can turn the narrative this way or another, right? I don't believe we are doing as much as what people are saying, or what a certain segment of society, I'm not grouping you into this, a certain segment of society that are like full blown on fucking like, if you like the Greta Thunbergs of the world, right?
Right.
Where it's like if you burn any type of CO2, you are like Hitler. We're not doing it as much as we're not being as bad as what you think you are. Yes, some countries, China, are worse than others. I'm not disagreeing that. That's a fact. And unfortunately, how the jet stream works across the Pacific Ocean, the westerly winds come from the west to the east. Guess what's east of China across the Pacific? Us.
China actually cut their CO2 emissions by almost 50% since 2005.
Okay, where are you getting that from? The communist government?
I looked it up to see if they did anything to change it. That's what they said. They're having
Who
new
says
vehicle.
Who says that?
Let's go ahead and go back to it.
Because if it's coming from the CCP, I have a real hard time believing that. I'm just saying. Hard time to believe in the communists are going to say anything factual.
Oh, I'm not saying, I don't know who the fuck this is.
What is it from? What's the website?
English.me.government.
What?
Ministry of Ecology and Environment.
Okay, what government? English?
I don't fucking know.
What'd you say? English?
English.me.
M-E-E?
Oh, never mind. That's China.
It's a Chinese website?
It's a China one.
It's a Chinese website. Sorry, I got a hard time believing anything coming out of China. Why? Tiananmen Square. So they kind of like to lie, just say stuff, talk out of one side of the mouth, but talking out both sides of the mouth.
I mean, I do believe that they're tackling it. I don't think because they had a smog issue. I mean, do they? I don't know if they continually have a smog issue.
Oh yeah, smog is. Yeah, I'm sure they do. Smog is just that. Smog is a side effect of living of being in a big city, right? I mean, L.A. and New York still have smog.
I mean, that's still a result of. It can be a result of climate change as well because you're, impacting the air quality.
Right.
So I mean, just the other day we were going to the UP. We drove through downtown Grand Rapids, and we were a little ways away, and we could see smog from it.
It's not
bad, obviously. It's not
China smog what you think. It's just haze. There's a difference between haze and smog. The haze can be you could be in the fucking desert, middle of nowhere. You'll still have haze because it's from heat. That's what creates haze, is heat.
I just think overall, I do think that like you said to me, I'm not grouping you into this. I do think that some other people aren't taking it as seriously as what it needs to be seriously considered. I'm not saying we have to go fucking balls to the wall on shit, but it does need to be an issue that has to be addressed at some point, and it's better to do it sooner than later.
Right.
And it doesn't matter who does it. Like we have a thing called the Paris Climate Agreement or whatever it is.
Don't get me started on that.
Where companies will do their part.
It's more the Paris Climate Accords. That's actually countries, not businesses.
Well, I mean, Amazon.
Yes, big businesses can sign into that, but it's more or less that's for more countries. Oh, I got another problem with Paris. Okay, Paris seems to be this really environmentally friendly city. They still dump raw sewage into their fucking river. Boy, that's really environmentally friendly, isn't it? Anyways, moving on.
So there's a lot of issues in the world that has to be taken care of, like the Philippines. pretty much just a big-ass landfill.
You can thank China for that one.
Yeah, well, trust me. But there's just certain things, certain countries have to get their act together. And I'm fine with, like, guiding them, not giving them resources. They can figure that out on their own.
Fuck no. If we're giving money to China to improve their CO2...
Well, fuck no, we wouldn't do that. Are you kidding me?
Are you sure?
I would leave.
Are you sure? Have you seen who's been running the country the last 4 years?
So, you know,
I mean, he doesn't know he's running the country, but he's been running the country the last 4 years.
It also doesn't help that there's currently 2 wars going on and shit that's going to affect climate change, or, you know, our perception of climate change. Like, oh my God, it's dry as fuck out here. Yeah, that's because like 40 missiles just hit this area. All right, calm the fuck
yeah,
down.
right. They just like everything just burned. What the fuck you think's gonna happen, right? They just put down napalm 5 minutes ago. What the hell do you think's gonna happen, right?
So, yeah, all in all, it has to be you have to meet in the middle. Like I said, I'm fine with switching to nuclear energy. That is a go-to strategy. That should be a strategy that should have been thought up of right now.
Well, a more hardcore strategy.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had nuclear, but we've kind of given up on nuclear in the last 30 years. Thanks, Chernobyl.
Yeah, fuckers. Don't know how to run a fucking nuclear power plant.
Goddamn Soviets.
Thanks, Soviet Union.
Fucking bitches.
We're gonna fucking get shot by China or Russia.
They don't listen to this. I'm sure this is probably like fucking banned in China.
That's a lie. There is one person in Russia that listens to this.
I didn't say Russia. I said China.
Oh, but like solar and wind are gonna work in some areas, not others.
No, I don't.
Same area, same thing. Are gonna work in some areas, but not others.
On the solar thing, you know what pisses me off? When they put a solar farm over usable farmland. What are we doing? What are we doing? There's a big-ass Amazon warehouse right there that's taking up a shitload of land that we could have put solar panels on the fucking top of. There's a big-ass grocery store over here, a Meijer, a Walmart, a fucking Whole Foods, a Publix, whatever, that could have solar panels on top of it. Here's a warehouse over here for Best Buy. Here's an ice rink over here. Here's a football stadium over there. Why aren't we putting solar panels on top of buildings? Why aren't we doing that? I know on older buildings you can't because of the weight. You have to retrofit them. But brand new buildings should have solar panels on top of them. Why aren't we doing that? No, we're fucking taking out usable farmland and putting down a solar farm. Boy, what a great idea that is.
I mean, like the one next to, isn't there a solar farm near Grand Valley?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's just what the school uses. See, now...
Right, but again, it's not just the school doing... I think there's a big-ass solar farm over near Midland, I want to say, for DTE. Huge-ass solar farm over usable farmland that could be fucking plowed and grow corn, grow soybean, grow whatever. Oh, by the way, what takes CO2 out of the air? Plants. You want to know what corn is? A fucking plant. No, we're putting a solar farm in here. That could have went on top of an Amazon warehouse instead. Or on top of this over here, on top of that over there. That's where solar panels should be. They shouldn't be in the middle of fucking farmland. No, put them on the goddamn top of buildings. It's the perfect spot for them. The building's already taken up place. Put something on top of it. You know what the solar panel will also do? Provide insulation during the summer. So you won't have to run the AC as much to keep the building cool.
There you go. See, look at this. Genius.
It's like, come on. Why aren't we doing this more? Like Apple did it perfectly. Their whole new headquarters thing, it's like Apple One or whatever. It looks like a spaceship sat down in the middle of fucking Silicon Valley. The whole top of the roof is solar panels. On top of their garage, the parking garage, right? They have solar panels. Top of the walkway, solar panels everywhere. Perfect. It's the perfect spot for them.
Yeah, I would have to actually agree on that one because going back to Meijer, I
I
don't mean to
throw I didn't mean to throw Meyer under the bus.
No.
I was just listing.
No, listen. We love Meyer. Meyer's good. Meyer.
We love our Michigan. We love our Michigan-born company. I was just, since they are pretty prominent around here, it's when I think grocery stores, the first one that comes to my mind.
Well, no, it is a good example. Only because I was actually doing something for my school, and Meyer happened to come up, and I wanted to see what green initiative they were taking to, either battle climate change or whatever, and to see if they were greenwashing people. Well, they actually reduced their carbon emission footprint by 57%, a year earlier than what they wanted to. So instead of next year reducing it, they reduced it more, and they reduced it this year. So, round of applause for them. But what they did was they had a company, or they knew of a company that were doing solar farms, and they would actually buy the energy from those solar farms. How it works, I have no fucking clue. Don't ask me. I'm not a fucking expert.
Yeah, that seems kind of sketchy. Because
the
solar farm just feeds into the consumer's grid or the DTE energy grid. So Mars like, we're just gonna buy energy from this. Whatever. It's not like that solar farm feeds just the Meyer grocery store.
Right.
It feeds into the electrical grid. I just said consumers of DTE because it's the main energy providers in Michigan.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, so how do you know? Yes, a percentage of the power is coming from solar, but how do you know just the power you're using is all coming from just solar? Whatever. But whatever. But like I said, I know it's harder on older buildings. Like you wouldn't be able to do it on an older Meyer store because the roof's was not built to support the weight of the solar panels on top of the weight of snow and ice in the winter, right? So I get to retrofit a building. It doesn't make economical sense to retrofit a building to put solar panels on it. But what I'm talking about is brand new buildings. Meyer is still building brand new grocery stores, right? Not so much in Michigan, but they're trying to branch out, other Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Wisconsin. Right. They're trying to branch out a little bit. Amazon went on a fucking spree of building warehouses. FedEx just built a brand new distribution facility like 4 years ago in Grand Rapids. And actually technically in Walker, but Grand Rapids, right? Why aren't we, it's like you're building it so you would be able to reinforce the roof just in the plans, right? Yes, it would cost a little bit of money. Okay, even if the state gave a little bit of a kickback or whatever, I'm fine with that. Okay, now I know when on the student loan thing I was bitching about giving money needlessly to people. I'm fine if you want to give them a little bit of kickback, like, hey, why don't you put some of these solar panels up on your guys' roof? We'll help cover the cost of having to reinforce the roof and a little bit for the solar panels, right?
Yeah.
Why aren't we doing that? Like, that is such an easy fix or an easy thing to do. Oh, that's right, because that doesn't go along with the narrative. Gotcha. That's why we won't do it. Okay, I get it now. It's all about the narrative. It's not about what's actually what we should do. It's all about what these motherfuckers in Washington, D.C. say we should do. Gotcha. All right, I'm on board now. All right, I'm not on board, but I'm on board now. Gotcha. All right.
Well, it's a good fit. I mean, that's a good thing to do. It is just like, okay, if we take solar panels and put them on the buildings that are brand new, they could generate power for themselves and or extra, power for later.
Well, even if they don't generate power to cover what they use, they're not pulling as much from the grid then.
Yeah.
Rather than pulling 100% from the grid, maybe they're only pulling on average, even if it's 50%, that's still 50% less. If they use 100 megawatts a day, now they're only using 50 megawatts a day. It's like, it's that kind of stuff I wish we would do. Cracking down on fucking emissions coming out of a diesel engine with these DEF systems and all that bullshit that are just a pain in the ass and cost way too much fucking money and don't last worth a damn to get a little bit more out of them. that it seems like you're getting onto your, it's the diminishing returns, right? You're spending a shitload of money. You're not getting very much back though. To do it.
Right.
It would like the solar panels on roofs. That's not a super large investment because if everybody started doing it, guess what? Cost of solar panels will come down. That's called capitalism. It's called how the economy works, right? If everybody wants something, there will be more and more companies that will build said item, which will bring the price down. Hello? It's called economics, right? It's like, that's such an easy thing to do. Such an easy thing to do. You know, that's where solar panels will live. I think wind turbines are a waste of fucking time for most places. Unless you're down in like Texas where they get wind 24/7. Guess what? Up in Michigan, in nighttime, wind dies. Great. Now we're not building power. Plus, if you could put the power somewhere, what are you going to do with the excess power? You know, I think we need to figure out a way to, I get you can't just build these big ass, battery warehouses, right, to store energy. But we can figure out a way to do it. We can figure out something to where, because I mean, you'll see during the summer when it's like 75 out, so not everybody's running their air conditioners, right? Because it's a nice day, right? People got their windows open. You'll drive through like a wind farm, half the wind turbines won't be spinning, right? Because the electrical company doesn't need that power, right? It would set the hertz level of the electrical grid off, and it would fuck up everything, right? But if we could figure out a logical way to have all the wind turbines or all the solar panels creating power all the time when they're able to, and then store that energy somewhere. Again, such a simple fix, but they won't do it. They keep striving for these far-fetched things that don't make sense. Why don't we do the logical stuff first? You have to learn how to walk before you run.
Yes.
And we keep trying to run like fucking Usain Bolt in a 100-meter dash. How about you learn how to fucking walk first?
Damn.
All right, I'm done. I'm done.
But yeah,
I don't know if you have anything else to add, but I'm
I just think, yeah, just to kind of summarize it up is, I do believe that climate change is a real issue and it needs to be addressed, like I said, sooner than later. And it doesn't matter how much of an effect we have on it or whatever. I think the basic fact is climate change is here, right? So let's just get it out of the way. These are the things that we agree on. Climate change is here. Nobody's doubting that climate change. Well, I mean, some other people are.
People with 2 brain cells, more than 2 brain cells, are not doubting it.
Yeah. They don't have 2 brain cells and one's fight. They're both fighting for third. All right. So
they're learning how to
climate
run
change is
before
real.
they walk.
Certain other people need to learn that when you have these ridiculous ideas of, well, solar panels and wind turbines are great, are going to be the fix. No, when you have a better solution at hand called nuclear energy, and just the whole electric vehicle thing, that is not going to solve everybody's fucking issue, okay? This is what's going to happen. We're going to end up having to do it, and the government's going to be like, well, it didn't change anything, so now we're back to the drawing board. Well, duh, we could have fucking told you that, you fucking idiots. But that's besides the point. So, just all in all, climate change is real. Figure out a better way to do it, which, I mean, hey, what's the, McFly?
Yeah, I got McFly. Yeah, think McFly. Anybody home?
But, this is probably the only time I'm going to say this. But, yeah, share that kind of ideas with your, I don't know who to fucking call them, but people in power. Let's just say that. Like,
The elected officials.
Yeah, elected officials. Like, it's a good thing to be like, hey, listen here, dumbass. Your electric vehicle thing isn't going to work, but here's a solution. Here's an idea of where we could get the ball rolling, and hopefully a better direction than what we're fucking rolling in, all right? Because we're rolling down a shit hill into a shit lake, eating a shit sandwich, all right? So, there.
So, to summarize...
The summary.
To summarize my argument, right? And we actually didn't get too bombastic like we did during the student loan thing. I'm pretty proud of ourselves. I think
that's because you were like, climate change is real. I'm not saying that it isn't, because I think I would have to fight you.
No, I'm not denying it's not real. If you don't think it's not real, you're a fucking imbecile. I just don't think it's to the level. Now, I'm not saying we should just stop right now. We should just keep going along the natural level of progression, right? We'll make more efficient vehicles, more efficient airplanes, more efficient this. We'll maybe find a new technology for that. That's great and all, but forcing everybody to do something is not the way to do it. Because you're forcing everybody into, like what you said, you're throwing a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. I'm sorry, I love Band-Aids and all, but when you're bleeding out of your fucking artery, it's not going to fucking stop you from bleeding out. Okay?
When the Band-Aid is not stuck on you, that's when we got a problem.
Yeah. So they're trying to force us into a fix, but it's not a fix. We're just going to be in the same fucking boat in 15 years. Like you said, well, I didn't change anything. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. So I think eventually there will never not be climate change. I don't care who you are. There will always be greenhouse gases. Okay? From the natural, from either, cars or just the manufacturing process or whatever. It's always going to be there. Okay? It's just you want to have this, that, and whatever. You want to have cell phones. You want to have the things to make our lives a lot easier to live. You're going to have to live with this over here. Okay? It just is what it is. Now we can help diminish this, but diminishing it with a kid's shovel right now, rather than be like, maybe there's a little bit better way to do this. It doesn't. Again, I'm not saying we should just give up on it, but going hard balls out, head first into the wrong thing is even dumber than if we just stopped progressing right now.
It's also, you have to be careful because certain companies, we won't say who.
Say who. I don't fucking care.
I don't know who. But there was a dude in the 1980s, he created a car that ran on water. And he ended up disappearing, was murdered. And everybody knew who did it. It was fucking people from Ford, GM, and Chrysler. Because he made a car that ran on water. And they were like, yeah, we're going to have to take care of this guy. That's just a conspiracy theory. That's just speculation, all right? I didn't say that they killed him, all right?
Right.
Don't go after me, please.
I know the one thing that Toyota's tried doing was hydrogen-powered cars.
They're still trying that.
They're still trying it, but they scaled back on it because I think they've realized that it's to make it work, to make hydrogen power work, the best way to cut down, and I've said this before, and I'm a firm believer on it, and I don't know why. I do know why, actually, because it doesn't fit the narrative of electric vehicles. The best way is hybrid, and I think Ford's realized that because they haven't given up on electric vehicles, but they've realized people aren't willing to spend the extra. Yeah, you get $13,000 from the government, which I have a problem with right there, because you buy an electric vehicle, you get $13,000 back and an incentive. No, fuck that shit. But people aren't willing to spend the extra $20,000 for the electric vehicle over a gas powered one. They don't have the range, and there's not charging stations everywhere. A better fix is the hybrid system. Is hybrid right now. Hybrid is a great first step. Again, walk before you run. Great first step. Another great step to where we can go from walking to jogging is Porsche is developing. In fact, they've developed it. They're doing it right now down in Chile. They take carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere because it is still carbon, right? It's a form of carbon. And through a process through that brainiacs came up way smarter than me, can turn it into gasoline. Regular old E80, or not E87, a regular old E10 or E15, 87 octane gasoline that you can put in your fucking car right now, and it will be the exact same thing as regular gasoline. And how do they do it? They do it down in Chile where they did it. The reason they put it up in Chile is because it's windy like 364 out of 365 days down there. They do it off wind turbines. And so it's truly green. They're pulling CO2 out of the atmosphere and then using wind power, some process or whatever, turn it into gasoline. And guess what? There's gas stations freaking everywhere. You could just put that right into our system. You wouldn't have to change a damn thing. Would not have to change a damn thing. You wouldn't have to build new charging stations. You wouldn't have to build new hydrogen stations. And then you wouldn't have to build trucks or, make special tankers to transport said hydrogen to these stations. You can just feed it right into our supply that we have. But again, they won't do that. Why? Because it doesn't fit the narrative.
Because fuck them, that's why.
It does not fit the narrative. It's like, it's such an easy step. So easy. And they won't do it. It's just, that's where my frustration comes from it, is you're forcing us to do something that doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. Again, walk before you run. All right, let's move into something a little bit happier, eh? I didn't know how to do a fucking transition from it. I guess here you do want to run before you walk because, well, sex.
Penis.
Peanut, boobs, and tits and boobs. All right. So, for porn star birthdays, actually, I need to mark this so I can put it up on the old Twitters. So, the old porn star birthdays, got the normal 3, and old co-host Dylan over here, he turned 24 years old just a few days ago later, eh?
Oh shit, yeah, I forgot.
You old fat bastard.
Last week Friday.
Yep. And so naturally, with your birthday being on October 4th, I decided to find a porn star that was on October 4th. And naturally, she was also born in the year 2000. All right.
God damn it.
So, welcome. We can say happy birthday to Dylan and also Madison Wilde, who turned 24 years old on October 4th, being born in 2000. An American from Los Angeles, of all places, I know. She started in porn at the age of 21 in 2022. Holy shit, this episode's long as hell. I just looked over, I'm like, fucking A.
Yeah.
Standing at 5'2" with 32 Bs, you can shave the carrot to her over 100 credited films. All right, a side note, after I finish this, I have a side note. Some of her over 100 credited films include Brickzilla 8. Yes, Brickzilla. I don't get it, but I thought it was funny. I Need Seed in Me, Daddy's Valedictorian, or you can also catch her in Now That's a Girthy Prick. It's probably a Porsche with a wide body kit on it. So there's a website that I went to that listed like 500 masturbation euphemisms, and it was great, right? And that's when I would go. It would just list them all in like order, and then I would just go and I would just scroll through and find ones that funny. And so how I would type it in when I first found it, I just typed into Google slang for masturbation, right?
Yeah.
And it popped up. And so that's how I didn't bookmark it or anything. I would just type in slang for masturbation. I usually just type in like slang or SALN, and then it would pop up, right? Oh, you've gone here before. Yeah, right there. Boom. Well, I search it, and the page is no longer around. I'm like, no, that was gold, baby, gold. I knew I was.
Damn it.
There was one time I was like, I should just copy and paste this into a Google Doc so that way I can delete them as I use them so I don't use them again. I really wish I would have fucking done that now. Maybe it's still on like the Wayback Machine. I could go find it there. Let's also wish a happy birthday to Lena Paul, 31 years old. She will turn on October 12th, being born in 1993. An American from DeLand, Florida, which I believe is near Orlando, I want to say. Could be wrong. Don't ask me. Not from Florida. She started in porn in 2016 at the age of 23, which is quite late. She is 5'4" with, I shit you not, 32 triple Ds. So she's got some fucking diners, drive-ins, and dives on her.
Nice.
Some of the awards she has been nominated for are Master of Missionary, Best Vocals while being railed by cock, as one does, Deepest Throat, and ATM Machine. She's not giving out money. Some of the awards she has won are Spit Roasted Superstar of the Year, Most Historically Accurate Thought. Now I got a question like that. Does that mean she just looks like Queen Victoria or something like that? She's just a slut? What the fuck does Most Historically Accurate Thought mean? I don't know. Answers on a postcard. And who comes up with these fucking award names? And she's also won the award Most Likely to Leave the Maid a Big Tip After Squirting.
What the fuck?
What are these names? You can watch her.
Why is that an award, and how can one get that?
I don't know. I don't know. Some of the films that she has been credited in her, or some of her nearly 700 credited films that you can sharpen your pencil to are Big Tits, Round Asses, 48, 49, 56, and 57.
Damn.
Flashing and Splashing. Dusting Off That Ass. And Dylan's personal favorite, Tug Rats.
What the fuck?
Does that mean you just like give it an old tug? The old tuggy tug?
Tug Rats?
Tug Rats. We also want to wish a happy birthday to Paisley Porter. She'll turn 29 years old on October 13th, being born in 1995. An American from San Diego, so she's jacking it in San Diego. Started porn at the age of 24. Quite late, again, in 2019. Standing at 5'4" with just modest 32 Ds compared to the last whore. Some of the awards... She's been nominated for the awards Best Body Built for Sin, Cream Pied Cutie of the Year, and Seductive Schoolgirl of the Year. She's also won the awards Best Problem Solver, which I didn't... What does that mean? Like, you can... I don't know. It's kind of like in the same thing as the last one of Most Historically Accurate Thought. I don't know what the fuck that means. Or she's also won the award The Ultimate California Girl, which I get that one, right? I understand that one. You can lay some pipe.
Huh?
To her over 160 credited films, such as Cocktopulous Chronicles Volume 45, Cross-Eyed Cock-Loving Cheerleaders 4. Boy, that guy's got 3 dicks. Oh wait, no, I just cross-eyed. Mouth Huggers. How would a girl, like, what would it look like if a girl was cross-eyed, like, giving you head, right? But she's, like, one of those ones that looks at you, right? That would seem like... that would seem really weird. I don't know. I'd be like, no. I need to put a paper bag over that shit. No. Or you can also catch her in Young Ass Rimming Addicts. So happy birthday to them ladies. That's a much better way to end the episode than doom and gloom.
Yeah.
Although some people are in the doom and gloom category because, well, they're the functional idiot of the week. And I want to go first this week. Have you ever heard of the... You might have seen this already, but you ever heard of the YouTube personality and Kick streamer, which I don't know what Kick is. I think it's something similar to Twitch.
Yes.
Jack Doherty. I think that's how you say his last name. Doherty. Doherty. Doherty.
Yeah, I think it's Doherty.
Yeah, he's like our age, right?
Oh, okay. This can't be fucking good. Gen Zer? Influential Gen Zer?
Yeah, don't go to the website. It's a surprise.
I haven't yet.
Okay, good. So, obviously, I don't know how he made it big time. I don't know how he does all that stuff. I don't know what kind of, pea-sized brain motherfuckers, probably the same ones that believe electric cars are the answers, that watch him. But one Saturday morning in the Miami area. He went to go for a drive in his nice car, right? Nice car he has.
What kind of car?
A 2024 McLaren 570S. It's a $200,000 McLaren, which is quite cheap for a McLaren's sake. So he's not super big time, right? He only can afford a $200,000 McLaren.
It's still a fucking McLaren, though.
Yeah, it's still a McLaren, but it's an El Cheapo McLaren. Went for a drive and around the Miami area. Now it was raining, right? No big deal. Yes, McLarens are sports cars. They're not, they probably have, more slick tires on them for dry weather and stuff for grip and stuff, but they can still drive in the rain, right? As long as you're not fucking goosing it, right? Well, he thought it was a good idea to, as he was driving, he had a friend in the passenger seat, and the friend was live on Kick while he was driving. Okay, we're not into the weird part or the idiot part yet, right? That's fine, except for the fact that his friend showed Dotery, or this doucher cunt, texting and driving on his live stream, driving down the road at 70 miles an hour on the highway during a rainstorm in his 2024 McLaren 570S. Unsurprisingly, although I'm sure it was a shock to him, he hydroplaned right across traffic and into the guardrail and totaled his McLaren 570S.
Oh.
Live on Kick. And then when the crash happened, did he stop the live stream? Nah, kept going, kept filming, and was more worried about the car than his fucking friend. So this guy's an all-around doucher cunt. Yeah, friends aren't $200,000. Yeah, I can get a friend right now. Yeah.
Oh. No.
So Kick cut down his video and then banned his account because driving distracted goes against their 13th guideline covering lawfulness, right? You can't film doing illegal shit on their website. Thank God, right? And of course now he's playing the fucking, oh, poor me, why me? Oh my God, help me out. You guys need to give me tips and all that shit and give me a break. Like, too bad this crash didn't fucking kill him because it would have done the world a favor. I'm sorry. Stupid fuckers like this, they always get away from stupid shit unscathed.
Yep.
Always. Every time you see a drunk driver, they get into a crash, guess who dies? Not the drunk driver. It's the guy they hit. The person they hit. It's like,
or even sadder, the family.
Yeah, whatever. You know what I mean? It's never the drunk driver that dies in a crash. It's always whoever got hit by said drunk driver. So, unfortunately, doucher cunt here of the award, and he might win functional idiot of the award of the award of the year because this is in the fucking running. Like, God, why couldn't a fucking guardrail go through his skull, right? That would have been something to put on Kick. That would have been a kick to the face, bitch. When he crashed, he had 185,000 people watching him at the time he crashed.
Nice.
Do you think any of those people probably tipped him once he said that he needs help?
Probably not.
I'm sure. Sure they did.
Yeah, $2 and he can get a brand new McLaren to crash.
If they all gave $1, he could go get a brand new McLaren. So, yeah, true grade A retard fucking doucher fuck here. My God. I got put down here. Too bad that didn't kill him. Because it would have done the rest of the world a favor. All right, Dylan, who's your functional idiot of the week?
So mine is now this dude's okay, so this is why I'm calling him kind of an idiot. He lived in Florida, or lives in Florida.
Nice.
All right.
As one does.
He decided to stay back and ride out Hurricane Milton.
Okay.
Right.
Oh, I think I know who you're talking about.
Mr. Lieutenant Dan
Lieutenant Dan.
decided to stay in Florida. Now, that is not a problem, all right? I know people were prepared for it. They prepared for it, whatever.
Well, it also depends on
Except
where
he
you
lives on a
are,
boat.
right? Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, true dumbass, right?
I was
gonna say, if he lived in, like-
boat.
If you lived in like Daytona Beach on the opposite side of where Milton was going to hit, okay, yeah, you could ride that shit out. Or you lived in Miami, but if he lived in like Tampa, I'd be like, dude, get out. It's not worth it. But you live in a boat. Are you
He did live in
retarded?
Tampa on a boat.
Are you retarded?
So, yeah, luckily he's okay because authorities and people on TikTok told him to. Oh, I see why they called him Lieutenant Dan. He's
Lieutenant
missing a
Dan.
leg.
Oh, he's only half Lieutenant Dan.
Oh, he's only Lieutenant.
Maybe he found the other leg during the storm. He didn't lose a leg; he found one.
So, but yeah,
That's
So
grade
he's
A
okay,
stupid.
but
That's grade A
goddamn.
stupidity there. Like,
you live in a boat and a hurricane's gonna hit. I would get the fuck out of there.
dude, what if he was like, "I'm gonna sail into it," sails into it? Like, are you? What are you
Fucking
doing?
Jack Sparrow's theme
Yeah,
starts
this-
playing.
Yeah, just, like,
He's a pirate.
because Milton, I think, hit Tampa. That's where the eye hit, right in that area. Like, if you
Yeah.
lived in the Tampa area and you decided to ride it out, I mean, yes,
Good luck.
the state can't force you to leave. You know, yeah, they'll put in like mandate evacuations, but they can't force people to leave. Right.
Right.
And so if you choose to ride it out, now I don't know, maybe you are quite a ways inland, so you don't have to worry about flooding. You know, maybe you're in a fairly new house, so you shouldn't have to worry about, you know, everything's up to code. You have your hurricane shutters up, right? You're not like in a shit shack on the corner. You want to ride it out? Sure. Okay. But if you're on a boat and you know
I'm on a boat.
and
I'm
you-
on a boat.
and you know that son of a bitch is coming, and you decide to be like, you know what, I'm going to ride the world's greatest wave pool. Right? And next thing you know, you end up next to Raymond J. Stadium, and you're like, how the fuck I get here? I can't help you, you know? You're the last motherfucker that's going to get towed out of there, all right? I'm just saying. Because that's advanced stupid.
A magical boat. Instead of magical pony, it's a magical boat flying through the sky on a
It's-
shoot it down.
It's a magical Lieutenant Dan flying through the sky.
Lieutenant Dan.
Dan. I don't know. Maybe his boat wasn't operational. Man, get an Uber or something, right?
It was a sailboat.
Like, okay, so he might have not been able to like sail it anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, motherfucker, get an Uber or something, right? Get
Motherfucker,
out.
if you tried to sail during a hurricane, you're gonna go flying instead of sailing.
Yeah, seriously. It's gonna be like NASCAR. Oh, our cars went upside down. How'd that happen? I don't know. Maybe the fucking airplane wing underneath it had something to do with it. But what the fuck do I know? I'm just a dumbass race fan. Ugh. Oh, holy shit! 3 hours and 5 minutes.
Second longest. Actually,
No, this is the longest. This is the longest by far, by like a half hour.
Damn.
You know what? You know what I might do? I might chop this in half,
Oh shit.
and then we'll be covered for this week and next week. You know what? That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna find a point somewhere in the episode and chop this in half, and then I'll just put in like a voiceover, like, "All right, that was the first part of our episode. If you want to listen to part 2, make sure you fucking give a listen." I think I can probably start it just before the climate change, because think that started at about an hour and 30 minutes, so which would have been about halfway. So that'd be perfect.
Hour and 36 minutes.
Did you mark it down?
No.
Oh.
I saw. I think I knew exactly when we started talking.
Well, it was just
'Cause
after.
I looked at it and I was like, oh. an hour
It was
and
right
36.
around that point.
Yeah,
So-
I was like, oh, we got plenty of time to talk about climate change, and here we are, an hour and a half later.
Yeah,
No,
we had
don't.
we had plenty of time. All right. So, Dylan, what else you want to talk about? How about Black Ops 6? You ready for that shit?
I'm excited for that shit.
I still haven't pre-ordered it.
I already have. It's been pre-ordered for like a month and a half.
I know you told me that. You're like, yeah, it's already pre-downloaded and stuff. Well, didn't you play the beta?
I played. I didn't play the beta at all.
Oh, I thought you played the
did-
beta.
I did the tutorial for the Omni movement.
Oh, yeah,
That shit
because I remember
was
you talking about the
nice.
Omni movement. Yeah. And what
That shit was
I've seen
crazy.
another guy on YouTube, free shout out to him. It's called the Act Man. He played the beta, the multiplayer beta, and he's like, if they can balance the Omni movement properly, it will solve a lot of the problems that most casual Call of Duty fans would have about people that like bounce around and fucking move all over the place and that type of shit. Because you can't do that with the Omni movement because the things, it's not coded to do that, right?
Right.
And so it will kind of get rid of that. It'll get rid of the bullshit like slide cancel, sliding around, all that stupid shit and retardedness and stuff like that. So if Treyarch can actually do a good job and balance it, you know, this is obviously 1.0, right? Now I don't know who's making next year's game. I think Infinity Ward is. If I would assume that Infinity Ward would also have Omni movement, right? They would take Treyarch system. And then, like, if this is a good first step, like, we can see where this is going, like, the path it's going to go on, and we can see that's going to get better. Perfect, right? If you're expecting this to be fucking perfect right out of the gate, you're an idiot.
Right.
It's not going to be perfect, right? This is the first time Treyarch's done something like this. It's not going to be perfect, all right? The first Call of Duty game was not perfect. It took them 4 tries until they finally made a perfect call. Well, yeah, 4 tries, because Modern Warfare came out before World at War. Took them 4 tries to finally make Call of Duty good. So, but maybe we can save that for next time. And until next time.
Next time.
Next time. Whenever the next time is, don't be dumb. Oh, make sure you follow us on our socials. You can see that down in the description below.